Hi. One of the people following Paul McWhorter's lesson is Dr. Dentin. He did the homework for Paul and for lesson 15, but he had some questions about his code. I answered part of his questions in his comments, but one of the other parts of it was going to be way too hard to explain with words, for me anyhow. So I figured I'd do a short video, try to explain what we're doing. So I'm trying out this magnifier on Windows so we can see what he's got. But first thing I'm going to do is make his screen full size. And then we're going to up his thing to 200%. All right. So this is going to be hard to do. So the first question he asked about this, or answer, was this input, and I did this in his comment, but he wanted to know why this didn't work, this one that he commented out. And the thing is, he said it threw an error, said it had three arguments when it only wanted one. Well, when you put a comma in like this, it thinks you're separating them by arguments. So it actually the input only wants a single string. So he looked on one of the other homework, the physics instructor used concatenate, which is the plus signs. And Dr. Denton was asking what that was over there. So what you need to do is you probably need to put a space here, because when you concatenate strings, they go right up next to each other. So you probably want to, after the E here, you probably want to add a space and then take this out, but then you want to put a plus sign in here. And then you want to put a plus sign here and then probably add a space here as well. And that'll solve your problem. It just wants one thing, and that will do it. I explained in my comment that this is already a string, so you're good. On the physics instructor, he was trying to print a number, which was a number variable, so he had to do the str and then parentheses and put his variable inside of it. So that's the answer in that question. That's the easy one. So the next question is why up in here he has to say for j in range 0 to number of blinks I. He wanted to put a j in here. Okay, so you probably need I'm not sure I'm going to be able to explain this very well, but this number of blinks I is a number. It has to be a number, and it has to be valid for every loop. That number can't change. And if you made it a j, then it would change this. Well, Paul calls them arrays, but it's actually in Python they're called lists. So this link, or this number of blinks here would be would change, and you can't do that. It has to be a single number, so that it knows that how many ever times you told it to do it, that's what it's doing. Now, why is it working? He asked, why is this working for him? So first of all, he said that it only would work with these specific combinations, but in reality, you could put anything in here. You could put Bob or ABC, whatever you wanted to put there, and all that is a counter variable, and you're not using it in your code down here, so it's just keeping track of the count. So it doesn't matter what you would put there, as long as it's not, an I. So anyhow, then the reason you can't put an I is because you are actually calling this function from down here, and you're already defining I, so you already have I, and that's why it works up here, because even though you're calling this code, it's way up here, it's the same as the code being underneath of it. And let me turn this thing off for a second, if I can remember how to do it. Nope, I don't know how to do it. Oh no. So let's just go to back to 100. All right. So you've got this I down here, and this code, all this function that you call it, it's a DEF, that's a define. You're defining a function. So all those if statements are in one function. Even though they're up here, they're actually under this. And Paul hasn't got into this yet, but we have something in all programming language called scope of your variables. In other words, where the variable is valid. So this I is valid for everything until you leave this for loop. So even though you're going to this, you're still part of this for loop because the for loop hasn't completed yet. You're going to go up here and do this, but then you're going to come back and, do this again for each of your num colors. So this I is in scope for this. So that's why you're able to use it up here. But you can't change it. And to be truthful, it's probably not the best coding practice, because just like you had no idea where this I was, why it worked or where it came from. This is way down here in another part of your code. This, and this, even though it works, is valid, and because you used it down here. My thinking is how I would do it. When you call a function like this color choices I, you also have up here your blink numbers, right? So you could say, you can have more than one argument in your call. So you could say color choices I, and then you put a comma, and then you would put blink numbers I. And that would send that information to this function also. And that way you know what it is. So you could go, let's see if we can get back to you somewhere in your code where you're showing the top of it. So where you got your defined color and you got color choice, you could say number of blinks or blink number. So you put a comma here and then blink, color, blink number. And then instead of calling this list item, this member of your list, your blink numbers list, you would have a argument that's already been sent to this, and you could just say my blink number, and then just say from 0 to blink number. That's how I would do it. So you can pass more than one argument to your, just like you're passing color choice up here, where then you have red and blue and all the other things, because whatever this is. But you can also send the number of blinks for that color along with it as well. So that would be the better way of doing it, because like I said, this is very confusing because you don't know. I had to scroll back and forth in your video to figure out where your I actually was, and I said, oh, okay, it's down there in that for loop down here at the bottom. So yeah, not sure whether I explained it well enough, but you can ask me questions. If not, I'm going to link to this video in your comments so that you can go watch it. Anyhow, hope it helped. Talk to you later.